Hello. So, back on the bus and also the Packard. It is brake day here at the ranch. Whatever. My spot. And plan was to bleed the brakes on these suckers, or at least check out what's going on with the brakes. This sucker, we had no pedal, so I figured that it would be a lot. But so we started, well, I started on that and was getting nothing but air, so I figure we got broken lines or whatever. I've since figured out that the master cylinder, which is in a ridiculous location down here, this guy, it probably needs rebuilt or at least bench bled, and we tried to do that and it wasn't pulling fluid, so I'm gonna take it off. So that's awesome. And so moved from that to this, and we're trying to obviously bleed the rear brakes, and so we got this one good. Something I didn't know, these gigantic dualies, there are two bleeder ports on there. Anyway, so we got this side, the passenger side, and then started on the driver's side rear, and pumping, and then we blew a brake line, which happens to go, at least it's up front, because you know, might as well work rearward if possible. But underneath the transmission cross member, if you can see it, this line right here broke right in the middle and sprayed all over the floor. Also, it's worth noting that both of those cars, the bus and the Packard, have a single reservoir master cylinder, which means all four brakes are connected essentially to the same system, whereas you have your dual reservoirs on newer cars. What that means is, on the bus and the Packard, if that brake line had blown out while driving, like in traffic or whatever, I would have quite literally been doing this. It took a picture we took years ago, buddy of mine, that's me pulling on the power brake, because that is exactly what I would have had to do. It would have been a scary, unironic kind of deal going on. Very dangerous. Single master cylinders, you really have to be up on your brake maintenance. You got to know if your lines are good or not, because any one of them goes, any part of that entire system breaks, no brakes. Dual is better. This is the 59 Impala. It did also have a single master cylinder, and I upgraded it to a dual master cylinder, and what that means is one side is dedicated to the front brakes, and one side is dedicated to the rear brakes. So if one line gets cut, seemingly you have two brakes left, so you could stop the car. Bus and the Packard do not have that luxury, and perhaps in the future I'll look into dual master cylinders, but for the time being I'm just going to pull the one out of the Packard and see what it looks like. And I'm just going to leave the bus alone because it was working well enough, just needed bled until we broke a line. So we're just going to keep going on the bus and see what the master cylinder looks like on the Packard. So stay tuned. So that changes things quite a bit. So I need to remove this on the bus, and I also need to remove the master cylinder on the Packard. So that's a good time. But anyway, that is the update. I will let you know how that goes. Okay, so we're under the bus, and by the way, the e-brake on these school buses is essentially a drum brake. This is the drive shaft, and that's what it tightens on. And so that's what I would have relied on to stop the vehicle, and it functions, and it likely would have worked, but it doesn't change the fact that it's scary AF. At any rate, the line that broke, as I said, was it's basically this one. Well, you can see it goes from there and it lays in this channel. This is the cross member for the transmission, and goes over to here. So let's see if we can ascertain. Hopefully there's a union, or you know, somewhere where we can unscrew this whole thing. So let's see if we can find that. Ideally it's not right in the center, but it could be. I have no idea. So I'm going to clean this up and I'll let you guys know. Okay, so I figured out the disconnect point, so you can see here I pried her up a little bit going up over there. This side whoops around over here and comes out over to here and goes directly into our master cylinder, which is under the floor. I know, handy, right? We're essentially sitting, well, you can kind of see that's the steering wheel shaft up there. So yeah, essentially we're under the driver's seat. But anyway, so I need to unhook that, and then that sucker goes all the way along over here, down over here, up over through there, back through this frame area, and comes over through here and connects right there through to this soft line. And this thing is old and cracked and needs replaced as well. I might as well. The beautiful thing about this failure is that it started up front, and so that gives us an opportunity to fix up front and move rearwards. And so the plan really is to replace this, and then that line that goes all the way back over around up to the master cylinder. And then I reckon we can try again and see what else blows or breaks. But I do like that it's just comes directly from the master cylinder. So, and then you see this one, and then there's another one up there, and then also another one here. And well, I guess that goes to the brake booster, which is right here. Very odd. Old cars are interesting, folks. And then one of the two of these goes rearwards to probably both brakes. And if I'm being honest, as we were trying to bleed both the rears, I felt like I heard the line breathing. I think it was that side, which would be the driver's side. I felt like, so there's likely a hole there, but we will figure that out. May pressurize it with air and use the soapy bubbly trick to see where before I waste, you know, gallons of brake fluid to just have another faulty line and have to replace that. So it's a process, but I figured out where we can remove this, and so that's what I'm gonna do. So got it off the bus. Here's the offending unit. Really the quality of the steel does not seem that bad. However, here is our problem. Interesting that was it. Again, the steel seems fine, but I suppose I could patch that with, you know, a welder. but it would probably just blow out in some other place, so better to just get a new piece and redo it. But anyhow, onto the old Packard, yanking the master cylinder out, wherever it is down there. You know, you get it. Hey folks, well, it continues to be brake week here out on the farm. There's no farm. Anywho, I had to get a new master cylinder for this. I wanted to rebuild the old one, but they just don't make rebuild kits anymore. But Amazon happened to have one. Anyway, I got that sucker in. So, whereas before, the brake pedal just went all the way to the floor and did nothing. Well, I ain't gonna push it now, but now it completely doesn't go anywhere. And so I'm thinking that it's the soft lines. I got this off, well, that one shot off, but I was just making sure that fluid would come out of this. I did this also to the other side, and we got fluid to come out of them. So these guys need to replace the soft lines in the front. And I just now figured that out, but this weekend I had been working on this sucker. What's a good way to show you? It's essentially the same thing. I was bleeding this sucker and got the rears all nice and bled, and then realized the front wasn't doing jack diddly. And you can see I already pulled the soft line out. It would have went up to there where that brake line goes to the other side of the frame. And I'm waiting on those. So the bus will be good to go. And these, if you can imagine finding 1955 Ford B600 school bus soft lines, it's as hard as it sounds. But I wound up finding some, and they're on their way. And now I gotta find some for that guy over there. I reckon it might be easier to find, but time will tell. I think perhaps in the meantime I will put fluid in my 59 Impala, because before I put the body back on this sucker, I replumbed all the brakes with brand new stainless brake line and put a new dual master cylinder in it and brake booster, because before it had the single one, which is dangerous. And so yeah, brand new, but it's completely dry. There's absolutely zero fluid in that. So yeah, it's brake week, doing all kinds of brakes, but it needs done because you need brakes. So I'll keep you updated. Good morning. Still brake week out here. It is a miserable spring day today in the driveway, but we have made some progress with the brakes. I did get all the soft lines in for the Packard, front two, and then the rear. You can see him hanging out over there. Same thing on the school bus. Well, just the front two on the school bus. Took forever. Wound up ordering two for the school bus. They didn't fit the school bus. I returned them. Turns out they fit the Packard. So I had to reorder them to fit the Packard. The ones that I got for the Packard fit the school bus, because there's just not a shitload of information out there for soft brake lines on these old cars. Not too many websites or even O'Reilly's or anybody really know what to tell you about a 1955 school bus. At any rate, so as you saw here, we took the rotors off. Took a little while, but that's because I had to remove the hub with the drum brakes. Something I didn't know about these these Packards is that they're riveted on from the factory. See there? Here, let me set my coffee down. See these here? Keep it riveted to the hub. So I had to take the castle nut off and pull all the bearings out. But that's fine, because I wanted to repack those anyway. But you can see here's the back side. Here's one that was broken. But yeah, so they're riveted on. You could, in theory, just sand them off or drill them out. and then I could have left the hubs on like a normal car and just taken the drums off, but here we are. I might as well just leave it the way it is. The brakes are in surprisingly good condition. The more I get into this car, the more I see that somebody cared about it. I still seem to believe that in the 90s, somebody was doing a lot with this vehicle. Anyway, all the bearings are in good shape. I'm going to repack those today. And the springs on the brake shoes they're still colored, which I have newer cars that are not still having factory colors on springs and stuff. So at any rate, yeah, I'm going to repack all those bearings and put those hubs back on, and then I don't think I'll go so far as that on the rear, only because everything that the internet shows me is that you need a special puller for this one that I don't have, and so I don't think I'm gonna screw with it. The fronts look good enough but these are tight. They're really tight, so I'm just gonna back the star wheel off. What's the star wheel, you may ask? It's this guy. This spreads or narrows your brake drums, the brake drum shoes. And so it's a little tight because I ran it, and I get wheel motion once I let out the clutch, but it's very, very sticky, so I think it's a little tighter than it should be. So I'm just gonna back those off, call it good. But I'll bring you back for the final iterations of Brake Week. Alright, we got all the bearings packed and all the inside of the hub slathered with brand new pretty grease. We'll put the dust caps on, call it good. Also, something I did find was that the brake shoes on this side, the passenger side, had 2003 marks. So somebody did a brake job on these in 2003, and the brake shoes look, I don't know, close to half worn. So, like I said, somebody cared. Hey folks, so I'm putting the wheels back on after doing the whole brake thing, and guess what I didn't do? If you'll recall, the rivets we talked about earlier that hold the drum to the hub, remember that one that was loose that I stuck back in there? Well, she's still in there, and she's gonna warble out and get caught in there and probably do a bunch of damage. So I'm gonna have to take the bearings, the dust cap and the bearings, castle nut, all that back off just to remove that little booger. But I should have known, but these things happen, so go me. Now to loosen the rear. And this is just the rear access to the star wheel that I showed you earlier. And I'm just going to back it off until I can turn this drum, because currently I can't. The engine can, but it's too tight. Nope. Well, loosen up a little bit. movement. Alright, we got her loosened up, but she might be old and just stuck and not have been driven long enough, so. There we go. Hey guys, thanks for hanging out with Parallel Dimensions and Brake Week. Got a bunch of stuff done, though not without its problems. But that's how it goes with these old cars. If you would, please consider sharing, liking it, give me that thumbs up if you could. Helps the channel, and I think now I'm going to start screwing with the clutch on this sucker. So we'll see you next time. Thanks, guys.